Hey everybody, this is Modern Refugee. Give it a little bit here and let everybody get into the chat. Let everybody hope everybody's doing well this evening. When somebody pops in, let me know if you can hear me all right. Hey there, Monkey Food Garden. Dana, happy girl. How is everybody tonight? Another tragedy here in Michigan, unfortunately. In Grand Blanc. Hey Mark, how you doing? How's the crops doing? Yeah, I've had another tragedy here down in Grand Blanc. I have been in Grand Blanc multiple different times for different reasons. It's sort of a more, I guess, a little bit more affluent and a little bit more well-to-do suburb of Flint. Library Lizard, how are you? L Dog started soybeans today, Mark. Awesome. Yeah, I seen him taking some beans off. I asked the bean plant. They said that typically they started with blacks, they said, and then went on from there. Captain Bart, how are you? How are things in central Illinois? Hey there, farmer. Watching from the People's Republic of Michigan, as am I. I am broadcasting from Michigan Stan here. Hey there, Imbach, Hudson Valley, New York, Mid-State Prepper. Thank you for always liking all my posts there on my Modern Refugee Facebook page. I appreciate that, Mid-State. I really do. Captain Bart, corn and beans beginning to get cut out here. Hey there, Farming Florist. How are you? Grit and Grace. Mother Refugee is here to keep me on the straight and narrow. We had a baby shower this weekend for our daughter, who is going to have our first grandchild coming up here this fall. So I was in full blown catering mode, and it was a lot of work and it was a lot of fun. But we are sort of glad that that is wrapped up. My wife has been working on it for a couple of weeks, and I had a couple of real busy days myself. Wingard, howdy from Glacier Country, Montana. Awesome. I have never been to Montana, but it's on the list if I ever get out there. Congratulations. Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Miss Melissa, how is Miss Melissa doing today? Were you affected by any of those floods that took place down there in the Southwest, Melissa? Hey there, Linda Kelly from Western Pennsylvania. Congratulations on the grandbaby. Yes, I am a traditionalist. I am going to give out probably cigars. That's what I did when all my kids were born, and I'll probably have to give out some type of electronic cigars to you guys here. Yeah, it was another absolutely terrible day here in Michigan with that was going on, and they said it was a veteran that did that. I can't even imagine. And then Latter Day Saints yet, and if you don't know, Latter Day Saints are the Mormons, and I can't get over why anybody would want to do that at somebody's place of worship. I mean, that is just, you know, I go out and in my community, I support basically all the churches. You know, if they're having a fundraiser for, whatever, or if they're having a dinner, doesn't matter whether it's Catholic or Lutheran or Baptist or Methodist. In fact, even Mother Refugee and we have even went when they've had meals like at the Greek Orthodox Church in Saginaw. We've been there as well. It's just awful. Same, not like that in the same places, but a rain for 2 days. That is a lot of rain, Melissa, there for the Southwest. Hello, Prepping Erie. Patricia, first time catching the live stream. Hey, I appreciate you being here. Thank you for being here. 1966, almost the year I was born. Hey, Tammy, how are you? Tammy is a good friend from down in Detroit. Uh, I saw where it was most rain that Phoenix had in one day in years. Yes. Yep. Like I said, they were talking about that it actually floated away propane tanks. The farming florist agree 100%. Yeah. Yeah. I can't, like I said, I support all the local churches around here. I think that's just a good part of community, basically. And so yeah, I kind of wanted to start out with another bad event basically, and then that all them generals and admirals and stuff getting called back here to the states for some big powwow that they're supposed to have in a couple of days there in Virginia. That is another crazy thing. I look back through a few things and I can't see where something like that has ever taken place, and now they're saying, oh, that's supposed to be some kind of pep talk. Sounds kind of odd spending all that kind of money to have a secure pep talk. A pep talk you have in a gymnasium or in a stadium, not at a secure facility. So I call BS on that basically. Library Lizard just got some propane delivered. Was happy to see no price increases. Yes, I actually filled up some regular gas tanks today, and I got everything. Put all my stabilizer in it. I got rec fuel. I got 91 octane rec fuel, and I got my gas cans all filled up here. That's the stuff that we use basically for our small stuff. Uh, Hermit Hill, sorry I'm late. You're not late. We're just kind of getting into it here. Let's see. Our country has been following the way of the Roman Empire. Breyer, yeah. There's a lot of correlations between the US and Rome, ancient Rome. I mean, we even have an eagle just like ancient Rome had, so as our symbol. So yeah, it just started the Roman Empire started to deteriorate from within and work its way out, and I could see a lot of those correlations between the United States and what happened with Rome. Yeah, the meeting with all the brass. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that, but I guarantee it's not good. Hey, Ralph Bro, hey, quick question. How bad is it with all the Muslims there? Is there it only in some regions or all over? All right. Dearborn is a suburb, and it used to be a very large suburb of Detroit. And Dearborn is where Ford Motor Company had a lot of stuff. So a lot of stuff during World War II and stuff was built in Dearborn, and Dearborn has become a place where a lot of Islamic folks have, I guess, immigrated here or whatever. But northern Michigan, I-69 is the dividing line basically in the lower peninsula of Michigan. All that crazy stuff typically happens south of I-69. And Dearborn, like I said, that's a suburb of Detroit. And we typically see none of that activity whatsoever up here. Once you get north of 69, it's basically the country. There are of course, different political factions out in rural Michigan. There's some areas that are quite liberal, and then on the flip side, there are areas that are quite conservative, and there's a bit of a mix in northern Michigan for that. But those areas where they discuss these things, like down in Dearborn, that isn't anywhere around where we are at. So I hope that answers your question. That is kind of what the deal is with Dearborn. I actually was thinking about maybe sometime taking a drive down to Dearborn and actually shooting a video just to see once what it was like down there. Now, the only other, I guess, Islamic people that I've had any dealings with, there used to be in Saginaw, there used to be a Mediterranean store, and that guy that ran that Mediterranean store was Muslim, and he taught Islamic culture or whatever at Delta College, one of the local community colleges around, Bay City, Midland, Saginaw. And we went in there all the time. We would go in there and basically talk food and cooking. And it was actually a great place to buy prepping stuff. They had, rice, flours, things like lentils, things like large quantities of feta cheese packed in brine, gallon jugs of olive oil in metal containers. It was actually a good prepping place. And I never had, as as me, just a hick from the sticks, when I walked into that business, I never once felt like I wasn't welcome, and I never once felt any type of problem or fear or anything. And the business eventually did close up, but whatever happened, I imagine that guy's still around here, still teaching at the university, because he wasn't that old yet that I would think that he would retire, but community college. But that is basically, that's my extent of knowing about what's going on with that. And we also have a family that lives here locally. They are Palestinian, but they are Palestinian Christians. And Palestinian Christians have had, if if the fighting between the Israelis and the Palestinians over there is bad, the Palestinian Christians are hated by both sides. So you can imagine what that is like for them. And that was part of the reason why they basically immigrated. And they are a perfectly normal American family. He's a businessman. She raised all the children. He was a really good guy. In fact, he's retired now, but that gentleman there, I actually did a little bit of work for him when I was a teenager, and he was a perfectly decent part of the community here. What do we got here? I was able to use my $1 off per gallon at Meyer today and able to get 47 gallons of that is $1.51 a gallon. That's great. The cheapest gas around here is actually a little bit south of here. It's about 273 is what gas is going here. Let's see here. Hey there, Dana. Hey there, Sherry. The bird in the background, is it a decoy or taxidermy? That is taxidermy. This guy right here is a snow goose that I took on a hunt back in 2005 in Missouri, Northwest Missouri, for the spring snow goose hunt. And that is my one. I have a pheasant up above me here. Of course, I got deer antlers all over. And then back over there, you can't probably see it, but that's actually a deer hide. I'll show you. Give you a little tour here of my man cave. But behind my Irish wool sweaters there, that is actually a hide. And if I remember correctly, that was like a 6-point that I got back in the day. And I wanted one of the hides tanned. And I actually have another hide tanned over here. It's just a smaller piece off a spike horn. And then this is actually this is a black bear skull that I got from the bear that I took back in 2015. And then, of course, I've got multiple turkey. You can't see it here, but I got multiple turkey beards and spurs from different turkey hunts. And my wife is actually a better turkey hunter than me. Her turkey mount upstairs is a lot better than mine. So Mother Refugee is good to go. So that's basically the quick tour around here, the old man cave. But that is the bird in the background. Crystal, hi, Amar, finally made it to alive. Yeah, appreciate you having you here. Whatever prepper, how you doing? Beulah, Michigan. Looks like my barn. Yeah, Old Spice. It is kind of. I got all kinds of stuff hanging around in here. It's become a museum, I guess, in its own right. Couple of videos that I got planned for you guys coming up here this week. I purchased a couple of weeks back. I got a really good deal on a couple of more updated GMRS radios, and I have a GMRS license now. Hey there, Mikkel. I am really impressed with these radios. In fact, I ordered those two. I liked them so much. I ordered another two, and Mother Refugee and we're going to start carrying these more updated GMRS radios in our in our vehicles. And it's got all the GMRS frequencies on it, and it also has the weather. We had some severe weather that came through here this week too. So, and I kind of showed Mother Refugee because how to get onto the weather channels there and how to use the different channels on the GMRS. And we're going to carry those in our vehicles for kind of short term around or short distance stuff around here. So we have a way of communicating outside of our cell phone. But I'm going to jump into some details there on that video for you guys. And with the way things are now, I just thought it's best if we have multiple means of communication. And for us, I think a GMRS radio is good. It gives us something a little bit higher up than a regular CB radio. It's slightly more secure because not everybody has a GMRS license, and with a GMRS license, the entire family falls under our call sign. So we have our call sign for basically the whole family, and we're just going to start carrying one of these radios in all our vehicles, and then we're going to have one at the house that's basically like a base unit. So I'm going to do a video on that for you guys. And then the other video is one that's going to be on sanitation and some particulars with if there would be some large SHTF event, uh, how to handle some problems that might come from sanitation. And it's not going to be just the pail with cat litter. It's going to be a little bit different than that. And it's a video I've been wanting to do for quite a while, and I am going to get that put together for you guys and hopefully have that out here within the next week. So that's a preview of coming attractions here on the Mother Refugee channel. Let's see here. Love Mrs. Wage's sauce mix. Thanks for the tip. Great. I'm glad that you like that. I actually gave away some of that sauce, and I had a chance to get some feedback from some people I know. Some people I know, like Melissa there from the Southwest, she used to be part of my R&D department whenever I would come up with a new recipe or something new for cooking. When it came to prepping food, Melissa was always on my R&D department, along with Mother Refugee and a few other people. And I remember one time in particular, I did chocolate pies out of Sailor Boy pilot bread. And if you don't know what Sailor Boy pilot bread is, I actually did a video on that. It is actually a kind of a cross between a hardtack and a cracker that they sell up in Alaska, and they use that as an emergency ration in airplanes and stuff. And I actually, I would like to get some more again, but I have had a hard time getting regular pilot bread. You can get it online. It comes in cans, but the Sailor Boy brand is kind of like the original one, and the stuff keeps for forever. And I would like to maybe do a video like that showing how to make the it was a chocolate pie dessert that I actually made with those Sailor Boy pilot bread. So it was like an apocalypse dessert, whatever you want to call it. Let's see here. MR, has there been anything following the Chaga disease? Chaga disease, is that have anything to do with the deer? Because I just got shown some pictures from a friend of mine this evening about a deer that they seen earlier this summer, and it had something seriously wrong with it. And there is a disease that's going through the deer now. It's not chronic wasting disease, and it's not TB. It's something again that kills the deer. And there's been a lot of fatalities in southern Michigan, Salta, where I'm at here, that have been killing those deer. And I'm not quite sure what the Chaga disease is, but if that's that disease for the deer, yes, there is a lot of concern going on about that, library lizard. Old Spice, I'm glad I got a backhoe. I tell you what, a backhoe, a skidster, a tractor with a bucket are all great items. If you can afford that and have that as a prepper, that's some good stuff. Oh, Melissa, one of these days we will have to get together, and I'll have to do some more R&D. I got more recipes that I got to try out on somebody eventually here. Sherry Hicks, yes, I just used Mrs. Wages to make pizza sauce yesterday. Delicious. Yeah, I love their pizza sauce mix. I actually can the pizza sauce mix in half pint jars, and that's basically enough for a sheet pan pizza for our family here. What we use, and you can make it out of your own tomatoes out of the garden, but you can also make it out of inexpensive crushed canned tomatoes you purchase at the store. However you want to do it. Uh, Scout, anyone doing anything different in preparation for war breaking out in Europe and in Asia? That's a good question to put out there for the audience. For myself, other than watching things, I have just been working on stuff that I know would be rationed if something would happen, if some type of hostility would break out. I'm sure things like GMRS radios, ammunition is one that would always be, fuel, things like heaters, that kind of stuff. I can see where stuff like that would be rationed if there would be some type of war that would take place in Eastern Europe. And fuel is always the one that I'm concerned with, especially coming into this time of year. You know, the Ukraine has, there's just that's a country that's completely covered with pipelines moving, petroleum products, natural gas, whatever, back and forth for that in Europe. So if something happens there, Europe can't get natural gas. Where's Europe going to get natural gas from? They're going to get it from the United States. Well, then, of course, that's going to affect our supply here. It's going to drive the price up, and then there could be shortages going into into winter here in North America. Most people have a heck of a time affording their gas and stuff over the winter time here in the upper Midwest. It's something when our kids were young and in school, man, we were constantly scraping by in November, December, January, February, March to pay those gas bills, to keep us going. And that is a lot of the reason. A lot of the places around here would have some type of secondary heating, whether it was a corn stove, a pellet stove, just a regular wood stove, kerosene heaters, kerosene space heaters. People were always trying to find a cheaper way to keep warm in the wintertime. So I would think that the two main things would be a spike in prices, things like ammunition, things like electronics that they would use, for the war effort. Those things would be things that I can definitely see getting rationed or just become not available whatsoever. And fuel is always that thing here in North America. We wouldn't get very far if we didn't have a constant supply of fuel. Nobody lives within walking distance of the stuff they need of their job, of their medical care, of even just a simple grocery store. You get up into northern lower Michigan or you get into the upper peninsula, you might have to drive 60 miles one way to get to a large grocery store just to purchase groceries. And if there would be any rationing of fuel, you could see that where that would be very, very difficult. Prepper Book Club, how are you doing today? Hawkmeyer Outdoors, a tractor with a bucket is my next prepper purchase. Yeah, if I had the money, and then too, if you have something like that, you can go use that to make a little money. So then you're part of the SHTF economy. If you have some piece of equipment like that you can, use to help people do any number of things. If you got a big tiller or plow in the back, help them work up a big garden. If you got a bucket on, you can help them move large amounts of firewood. You can, bring in fill dirt. You can sell sand. Oh, there's all kinds of stuff to do if you have one of those. Sutton's Days, how are you doing there, my pantry prepping friend? Sutton's Days is the pantry prepping extraordinaire. I'm always seeing her pop up with new content on that. Yeah, whatever prepper, 40 miles for me. That's pretty common in the northern lower and in the upper peninsula. Sunset, how are you doing? What will I do if the digital ID becomes mandatory, like England is supposedly experiencing? Well, Sunset, I probably go. I'm probably going to give up some OPSEC here, but I'll probably participate enough to just keep me above board, but then go ahead and probably participate in some type of black market activity. That was the same thing with my grandparents during World War II. There was stuff that they needed to run the farm that was rationed. They got it off the black market. I remember grandma telling those stories. There were things that they needed they just couldn't get, so they dealt with the black market. And I can see where something like that, especially it is going to happen. I mean, people are going to find a way to get what they need, and so they're not monitored, so they're not watched. There's going to be, and that's why they want to track everything. They want to track everything. They want to tax everything. They want to know what you're going to do. They're going to, plug everybody into AI to find out who's going to be a problem, who isn't going to be a problem. Yeah, that's pretty much what's going to go. And in my personal opinion is trying to hide from that stuff is already going to send up a red flag. So as far as I'm concerned, we'll just have two different identities, so to speak, if that makes sense to you. Like I said, it's easy to say to sit here and say that kind of stuff, but I think that is what most people will do. I've talked to different people that were in the former Soviet Union and stuff when that collapsed, went over to a market economy and stuff, and they said when they were in the Soviet Union, there was basically you were basically two different people. You were the people that was the good communists that participated in the Soviet Union, and then there was the other side of you that did the capitalist free market thing, and did what you had to do to get the stuff that you needed to survive, to get some much needed comforts and stuff. So you played both sides of the fence, and that's how a lot of people survived living like that. You played both sides, and sometimes that's what you have to do. Christo, been thinking a few metal military gas cans and containers for my truck. Yeah, they're the best if you can get them. And those new plastic gas cans with all those new vents and stuff on them absolutely suck. And people are constantly trying to replace those. That's something we actually sell quite a bit at our establishment. This is Queen Bee. How y'all doing? Canning all day. Seems like that's been my weekly routine now. Yep, that's this time of year. Hawkmeyer electric bikes and vehicles are something I'm looking into for a decent solar array can get a lot done for fuel shortage. Yeah, I think everybody should have a certain amount of um, battery banks, that kind of stuff to charge, especially the small devices. If you got that, that's a good start for that kind of stuff. And you hear that a lot. A lot of prepping channels will talk about, if you got a generator, you're going to become a target. But in our community, there's a lot of generators. There's either the Generac ones that the people that, have a little bit more money have hooked right up to their house. But then there's a lot of people too that just have portable generators. And then with all the farms and stuff around here, portable generators, a lot of the farms and stuff, if they don't have electricity, they're going to experience death of their livestock almost immediately if they don't have fans going, if they don't have electricity, they're going to have problems. So for us around here, it's not just one person in town would have a generator if something would happen. There's multiple. There's been times when we've had 4 or 5 day power outages here in town. When the sun goes down and it gets dark, and you can hear the hum of generators through the entire town. So for us here, like maybe there's a place where that could take place, that could happen. But for us here, a lot of people got generators. There's a lot more people that have them that don't have them, basically. Oh, let's see here. Ad interfered. Sorry. Could you repeat the first and second sentences, please? As far as the digital ID, play both sides of the fence. Play both sides of the fence, and that's what they did in the Soviet Union. Um, People would participate to be a good communist, but then they would do capitalist things, and they would do things to get by and to get the stuff that they needed, whether it was material goods or medication or whatever. They basically played both sides of the fence until they got caught, and a lot of them didn't get caught because they were low key about it. So I can see where people would do that if we were all forced in some kind of digital ID thing here. There would be a lot of people that would completely balk at that, and the ones that would half-heartedly agree would probably do that just to just stay under the radar to a certain extent. They agree to it, but then they would go do something. They would do what else that they need to do on the side and just kind of leave that off the digital ID. I guess if that makes sense to you, how I'm saying it. The underground system is alive and well today. We barter daily here with our friends, and we do too, Sutton. I would have no if I don't have a farm here myself. I just have my garden. Would have no problem if something happened. I would have no problem getting eggs. I would have no problem getting dry beans. I would have no problem getting potatoes or apples. I mean, would I have the if something bad came down, if the hammer fell, so to speak, might not have access to all the foodstuffs that are available today in a modern supermarket, but we certainly would not starve here because I know people that produce this stuff. There's things that I do for people, the barter system goes both ways. I might not have a big chicken coop full of chickens, but I have other things that I can do, other skills that help people out where I can get eggs. I mean, I haven't bought any eggs all summer long. I've gotten eggs from my good friends. Basically, all summer long, we've been enjoying the best eggs we've ever had in years because I kind of basically said with the spike in egg prices, I'm just going to get out of that system. I'm going to start, doing things for friends of mine so I can get eggs back in return. That's the start of it. That is very much a start of it. Monkey Food Garden, if it comes to the black market, it's going to become the new economy. And it's true. And like Sutton's Day said, it already exists to a certain extent. You wouldn't call bartering with your neighbor the black market just yet, but I can see where the powers that be might want to do that, in the future. GG Garden, I expect I'm likely to be a target or without a generator. It wouldn't be from the neighbors, but you never know who might appear. And that's one thing with like small towns, or if you have prepping groups, or if you have, your community, it helps because you have more sets of eyes on things. And that's the big thing with some type of community. People like I know who comes over to my neighbor's house. And when I see somebody over at my neighbor's house that don't belong there or I don't recognize them, which doesn't happen very often, I'll go over and find out what's going on. And they do the same thing for me and vice versa. The people that live north, south, east, and west of me, that's how we do it. And that is kind of the start of basically, a community watch, however that you want to call it. We should all have alternative ways of transportation. Yeah, bicycles. If it wouldn't be for my knees, I'm kind of anti-bicycle because my knees probably couldn't handle it anymore. But that is something. Everybody should really have a couple of bikes. We got a couple of bicycles here too. They're probably not in very good shape, but if the younger members of my family would want to use them for something, we got stuff here. Uh, Tommy, how are you doing? Tommy is my good friend from the thumb. This is the USA. Unfortunately, we need to limit freedom of religion. Tammy, let's see here. Sutton's Days, egg dealers. Yeah, and a lot of times people that have chickens, they get too many eggs and they want to get rid of them because they don't want them to go to waste. But when the chickens are, when it's the right time of year, chickens put out eggs like crazy. And, eggs aren't something that everybody uses every single day, but, we use a dozen eggs a week, we use them for cooking and, we might have scrambled eggs or breakfast burritos one night. Hello from Idaho. Hello from Connecticut. MR stocked up on medical supplies today. Yep, that's something you really can't have enough of. I actually went and got some supplement vitamins. I actually borrowed out some different supplement vitamins to some different people. Of course, I didn't get them back, and I had to go out and purchase some stuff because I was missing a few things, and that's why you got to kind of keep a running mental note in your medicine stuff. And that's something too, you got an injury or whatever, you might go through a few band-aids, a couple tubes of Neosporin and stuff. That stuff you got to constantly be on top of to keep your stock up. I try to keep a little stockpile here, but then we use it, I always try to replace that as quick as possible. You are way too young. Well, I'm in to have your body falling apart. I'm on my feet 8 to 12 hours a day every day, and I have been since I've been probably 16 years old, 17 years old. And I worked 30 years on a cement floor at a large big box store, and that took its toll on my knees, and it's starting to show now. But I'm young enough where I can get things kind of fixed and hopefully take care of that and try to get out of that hump. But I got a lot of miles on me. I would be a high mile vehicle if I was sitting in a lot somewhere. Yep. Sutton's Day is drowning in eggs right now, and that is a lot of folks that got chickens are that. It doesn't take a lot of chickens to keep a family of four in eggs. Uh, Aloha from Hawaii. How are things in Hawaii there, Deb? Let's see. We got tired of giving eggs away all the time, started freeze drying them. That's a good idea too. I've read different ways where they've made powdered eggs out of it with dehydrators and stuff. And I've never really done that because I've always had access to fresh eggs, but that might be something that I would look into if times really got tough. But that's something that I have never done, so I would have to do some serious experimenting on that. Mikkel, uh, so yeah, we've got a couple years worth of eggs freeze dried. Yeah, and I'm assuming freeze dried eggs. That's the same as what you get like in Mountain House breakfasts, and I've eaten them multiple times out camping and hiking already, and I don't have any problem. I could eat those; they wouldn't bother me one bit. Ralph Bro, question: what do you think Putin is getting ready for nowadays? Since I'm seeing Russia getting in more in trouble with gas supply and squeeze from the EU. Well, they've been hitting those refineries with drones in Russia, and I've heard that there's Russians that are standing in line waiting for gas. And the big thing that bothers me about that whole Russia Ukraine thing is I can't believe how long this has been dragging on. I wouldn't have thought that Russia couldn't, roll in there. I mean, for Pete's sakes, Russia and um, Ukraine were the same country for decades. So I really don't understand why that is the way it is. And Putin's an old guy. I don't know how much longer that Putin's really going to be around age wise. He's never going to leave the position of power there in Russia. But how long that man's really going to live, I don't think he's going to be around for 20 years, 15, 20 years anymore. I really don't. And there's been rumors going around for a long time that he's had a lot of health problems. And I'm afraid if Russia would strike something really serious, something in either Poland or like the Baltic states, that would be a huge I would be gathering my crew at that point. If something like that took place, I would be gathering my crew, I would be hunkering down, I would be double checking my stuff, and I would be in a huge observation wait and see type mode, kind of my DEFCON. I did a what my own DEFCON here for my place is. I would be in full, DEFCON 1, to watching to see how that is all materializing, because here we have military bases and stuff here, and we have things what I consider to be legitimate nuclear targets here in Michigan, and I wouldn't be making any plans to go to any of those places anytime soon if something like that took place. But I'm afraid if something like that took place, Europe is going to be the one that would really take the brunt of that. And then of course, whatever we get from Europe, whatever we sell to Europe. See, that's the other half of it. You get into it where people talk about supply shortages, but then like if a war takes place between China and Taiwan, and they sanction China, something like that takes place, the goods from China that come over here, which are extensive, are going to be gone. But then we also sell stuff to China, farmers especially. And I know this because I'm in an agricultural area. A lot of farming stuff gets sold. So then there's that aspect of it too. So then you're not going to have a supply of anything. And then the stuff that you're selling is not going to be, you're going to be stuck with a glut of that too. So the prices of certain things are going to skyrocket. And then the prices of other things are going to collapse. So you're going to have both things happening at the same time. I guess if that makes sense, how I explained that to you. Rain, yes. Deb Smith got some rain. We had some rain here, and it is still bone dry. We are very, very dry for this year. Whatever prepper, gotta go. Sure do appreciate. I appreciate you, whatever prepper, for being here. Dehydrating and freeze dried eggs. Freeze drying is way better. I would probably think that it would be. And a freeze dryer, I don't have anything yet. For barter items, I keep extra medical supplies. I think Hawkmeyer, I think medical supplies is one of the best things that you could keep if you really want to barter. because you can use the supplies, and then if you don't use them, you could barter them. When it comes to bartering stuff, I'm not a big barter prepper anyway, but if you want to put something away for barter, put away stuff that you're going to use yourself anyway. So even if there is no barter market for it, you could still use it for yourself. And there's nothing better than medical supplies for that. Uh, yeah, Mikhail Kalishnikov. I'm curious about the EU's going to do to heat their homes, and that is a big big concern. I know one gentleman in Sweden. He's actually a UK citizen, and he moved to Sweden because it was a neutral country, basically to stay out of that kind of war thing. And now Sweden joins NATO, so he's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Oh yeah, gauze pads and rolls. You just go through tons of that stuff. Tons of that stuff. Tammy, in regards to Dearborn, Islamic control of Dearborn, Michigan, no Sharia law in the USA. Yeah, like I said, Tom, I'm thinking at some point I'm going to go down there to Dearborn and really see what's going on down there, because I haven't been down to Dearborn in decades, and I'm curious what it's looking like down there. That might be a modern refugee on the road video in the future. Some say Ukraine was under Russian rule, hence Ukraine's independence was a big deal. Yeah, and there was a time that, if I remember right, that Ukraine was actually in control of Russia, if you go back hundreds and hundreds of years. But I'm not up on all the Eastern European history, but uh, there's no NATO solution to counter. Yeah, I don't. I mean, the people that I know in Europe are keeping an eye on stuff, but I know there's a lot of crime in Europe. And my friend there in Sweden, he told me too that a lot of the Kalashnikovs and stuff that are on the street there in Stockholm, they're from the Balkan War in the 90s. So all that military stuff that's been sent over there, I wonder how much of that stuff has actually found its way to the front line, or if it hasn't found its way onto the black criminal market over there in Europe. Uh, Imbach, dehydrated regular way, seriously delicious as well. Just dehydrate them raw and scramble them. Uh, I guess that makes sense. MR, today in speaking with several of my coworkers regarding political violence here in Michigan across USA is unacceptable. Must have put a stop. I don't know. I mean, people. I don't know. I don't know what's. Social media is the big thing. Social media has put people against each other, and that's why I always tell people, if you're watching something or reading something on social media, you need to take it's an eliciting an emotional response to you. Need to take a step back and say, who wants me to be angry by reading this? And sort of, I've switched to that over the years, and this country is big. There's a lot of different factions in this country, and they always seem to get along to a certain extent before, but in this last 10 years here, things have gotten deteriorated to a point where I am surprised something major hasn't happened yet in that line, and I'm praying that it never does happen. But I can see where there could be more things in the future that we need to stay on our toes for. I was always one to be very situationally aware when we are out and about doing anything, and I have never been more heightened awareness, switched on, game face, whatever you want to call it, than what I've been here in the last few months. Uh, hey, Christo. Good evening. You guys take care. Coney B. My basic first aid kit should be the primary item you keep stock, like gauze, alcohol, ointment, first aid cream. Yeah, antiseptic cream, stuff for burns, some butterfly bandages in case you got to patch something up, a couple of tourniquets just in case something really bad does happen. Ralph Bro, I'm Polish, trucking what's going on in Europe all the time, tracking I imagine we said what you were wanting to say there was tracking. From what I see, a lot of countries in Europe are getting fuel and gas from other places than Russia. Yeah, that I think the United States is supplying a certain amount of natural gas over there, especially going into the North Sea there, and the Baltic. They're in the northern part of Europe. Son said a family member cannot live on $10,000 per month. I wish I had $10,000 a month to live on. We should focus more on what we have in common versus our differences. There's a lot of people that want to see us fight, and I just won't do it. I don't jump to conclusions, and I want to hear the whole story. If I'm disagreeing with somebody, I want to hear the whole story. I want to know their mindset. I want to know why they think that, what life things have taken place in their past that makes them think that way or believe the way. I want to know those things, because we all eat, we all sleep, we all want the best for our families. Um, we all want to have some downtime to relax. Most of us practice some type of religion. We want to practice our religion, and we want to be left alone. But when it comes to the point where people are forcing their ways on another person, now that's getting to be borderline where it's problematic. And I heard this a lot from different people up in the Upper Peninsula. There's a lot of people here in Michigan that live in southern Michigan. When they retire, they want to move up to what they call God's country and be up there in the Upper Peninsula. And there's been lots of times I've heard people from the UP say to me, we don't mind people moving up here, and we don't care if people want to move up here and experience our culture, but people will want to move into an area and then change the culture. They want it to be whatever it was where they moved from, and that is where problems start. So if you want to be part of one culture, that's fine. If you want to experience that culture, that's fine. But you to try to force your culture on other people, that's when there's always going to be problems. And there's a whole history of things like that. Goldenrod tincture is good for allergies. I have heard that, although I'm really allergic to goldenrod, so I kind of stay away from the stuff. Um, let's see what else we got. Happy nasal rinse for allergies. That's a good idea too. Hermit Hill. I recently went through my YouTube subscriptions from 30 subscriptions down to 5, and I'm on the list. Well, I appreciate that, Hermit Hill. Hermit Hill, and I actually do that too. At least twice a year, I'll go through all my lists, and the stuff that doesn't, jive with me anymore, or doesn't align with, the things that I believe in, whatnot. That stuff gets purged out of there, and it's on basically anything with social media. I try to keep my stuff pretty lean and pretty mean. And as far as prepping, um, I have been doing small prepping trips here this last week. Little things. There were little nut bolt tool type things that I got. Like I said, I told you guys about the fuel. I got the fuel set aside. It does not very much. Very much stable has to go into gas cans to make that fuel good to go for 12 months. Another thing that I like to do, like this time of year, I will put some type of like sea foam or something like that in all the vehicles to make sure that all the fuel injectors and everything is good. I got my truck planned for oil changes and stuff this week. Again, I have a shade tree mechanic that does that stuff. I stay away from the big mechanic shops. I tried to have a face-to-face person that I can go to. I can text them or call them up, say, hey, I'd like to get my oil changed sometime. Just look over anything. Let me know if anything you think needs to be done. Check the brake pads and stuff out, because you know what? If everything goes to heck, the economy collapses, the dealership closes, the big mechanical garage closes, my friend is still going to be out there doing his shade tree mechanic thing, and I can work out a way to pay him, get that squared away. I don't need the big places to get basic things done on not just my vehicle but all the vehicles in my family. And then that's where you get into your community. That's what a prepping community should look like. It's not just a bunch of you know I'm gonna out myself a little bit here. It's not just a bunch of people sitting in the morning talking about guns. It's to have a community. The whole part the whole point of a community is having people you can go to get things done, having people come to you to get things done. Now, if the broader economy isn't working, you still have that local economy working where you're still being able to get, barter items. You're still be able to make a little bit of money. You can fix things. You can do your thing to help other people out and vice versa. That's what a prepping community looks like. Some of these other people, when they're talking about prepping communities, I'm not sure exactly what they have in mind for that. We have neighbors here that are part of my prepping community, and we have an entire small town. And most of the people in this small town I consider part of our prepping community, because if something happens, it's going to be people in this small town that are going to be supporting each other and have to have, looking after each other, if that all makes sense to you guys. Miss Mary checking in late. Thanks for doing these live chats. Hey, no problem. No problem at all. I went from 5 Benadryl per day to 0 within 24 hours, implementing the histamine diet. That actually sounds a lot of things. A lot of things we eat with the junk that they put in our food now. It does it basically it causes immune responses, and those immune responses is that histamine. That's what Sunset is talking about there. Not sure how old your daughter is, so take her age and weight into consideration when using tinctures. Yeah, and that's with a lot of medications. A lot of medications go by weight. Weight is what determines how much of a medication that a person is going to receive. Like when you get into small children, they could take the same stuff that adults take, but that's why if you look at the amounts that are in like a child's medication compared to adults, they're tuned down to those lower weights, and that's kind of the basics of the pharmacy thing. Something to keep in mind too, with when you have your prepping books on medicine and that kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff you want to keep an eye on. Yep, neti pot. Yep, clear your sinuses. Another thing too, those foot bath things. If you have problems with swelling in your feet or whatever, those foot bath things with warm water in it will actually increase circulation in your feet, and that helps swelling in the feet. That's something that there's been different family members that have had problems with here over the years. My grandmother had it really bad because she had congestive heart failure toward the end of her life, and those kind of things gave her a certain amount of relief. But I really would like everybody that's watching this live stream to really, really be have your situational awareness right up to the max. Um, I know we're all used to looking on our phones for different things, but keep your head out of your phone for the next few weeks with everything that's going on. And if anything doesn't look right to you, move away from that area, get out of that area, get off the X. That's another expression I've learned from being on YouTube for a while. Get off the X, get away from that issue. And always, always, always trust your gut feeling. If you're witnessing something that's taking place, it doesn't seem right to you, it's not normal for what's going on, what normally goes on wherever you're at. It's always better to be safe than sorry, and just get away from that area, move away from that area. And I can't show any of the tools that I would, I guess, like to show you here, but use your tools, the tools that you've purchased and practiced with for your own protection. Use those tools, whether they're pews, or if they're, you carry something like a pepper spray or something like that. Make sure you have that with you. Make sure you have access to that if something does happen. And don't be afraid to move away from people, and try to have your phones always charged up, always have gas in your vehicle, back into parking spots. So if something happens, you can take off. You don't have to back up to, get out of there. These really, really basic things. Keep a first aid kit in your vehicle. And like me and my wife, we've started to carry these extra radios. So we got alternative forms of communication. So for some reason, if our phones don't work, we can't call or text, we have something else. If I'm 10 miles out of town working on something, doing a delivery, whatever, and she's at home here and she heard something or seen something, she can crank up on that radio and she could say, hey, modern refugee, we got something going on here. You need to do this, check this, or maybe come home, or, whatever, for whatever that situation is. That's the kind of thing. Tom M. had an experience yesterday where individuals were sitting at the end of my driveway filming me. My Trump sign and my American flag with the attacks on conservatives made me nervous. Oh, Tom, I'd have been right out there. I would have walked right out there and I would have said, and that's just not for, political signs or anything like that. I've had that here where I've had, in fact, one time, I don't know if I ever mentioned this in my videos, there was a guy being surveilled down the street. I learned this after the fact, basically. It was a snowing day, snowing, nasty out, cold, whatever. And there was this car that was like down a house or two from mine, just sitting there in the snow. And I thought, man, that's weird. So I started watching him. And the dude drove around the block a couple times and then stopped in a different spot. And I said, okay, something's not right here. I went right out and I approached, the dude rolled the window down this much and he's like, yeah, can I help you? I said, no, can I help you? What's going on, man? You got some car problems or something? I've been watching you. You're not supposed to be here. Who are you? What's going on? Do you need a phone? Do you need me to call somebody? You got car problems? You got a flat tire. You want me to help you pump your tire up? What's going on? I believe that a strong offense is a good defense. So I will kind of push these different situations that take place. And if I would have been in that situation, if somebody's outside filming me filming my house or whatever, I'm going to be right out there, find out what's going on. And then of course, I'm in a small town, so I know local law enforcement. I have coffee with the chief of police occasionally. I texted the chief of police, said, "Hey, what's going on with Junior out here on my street, just making a nuisance of himself?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, that's a private investigator. He's surveilling somebody." We've had a couple other people call in, so now you got multiple eyes in your community that both noticed something that was out of the ordinary that was going on, and they reacted to it. They texted the chief of police or they texted whoever the officer was on duty. And like me, I went up and approached the car because I wanted to know what was going on. Like I said, for me, a strong offense is a good defense. And like I said, I'm not going to let somebody being taking pictures of stuff or flying a drone over my house. I'm going to go find out what's going on with that. It might be something as simple as the insurance companies trying to screw people and make them go get a new roof. That's why they're flying the drone around. But still, I want to know what's going on. And like I said, I know the local law enforcement. I have multiple phone numbers for the different officers that are on duty here in our local town. And I'm not afraid to text them or, get a hold of them outside of the 911 system if something odd like that is going on. I hope that kind of explains, my mindset there on that, Tom. But that's definitely, disconcerting. If somebody wants to have a political sign in their yard, that's America, man. You put whatever sign you want up. That's, as long as it's not hurting me, I don't care what you put up. But if you want to start forcing your way of life on other people, that's where the problems are going to be. Very helpful. I appreciate all the suggestions. Looks like I have some research to do on the goldenrod. Yep, like I said, goldenrod. A lot of people like goldenrod, but for me personally, I just can't really do that. Miss Mary, Spidey sense is totally activated. Yeah, that's true. And like I said, everybody's really got to be on their toes from this point out. I would say, at least the next couple of months, we just got to be situational awareness has got to be right on top. Look at the top of roof, know where the exits are when you enter the building. And that's true. Always know where your exits are. Never walk into it, like the movie says, never walk into a place that you don't know how to walk out of. That was actually Robert De Niro's line in Ronin. Wireless ring type camera around my property. Yeah, hey Rip Curl, how you doing? Rip Curl's another real good prepping channel that's out there. Mods on a lot of different channels, including Marfugal. Yeah, if you got access to Wi-Fi in your house, get a couple of cameras. I can check my cameras right here. I can check them on my phone. I don't even have to be home to check my cameras. A couple cameras like that, looking down your road or looking at your back door or your garage or whatever, or looking out toward the. I got one camera that actually not only shows my backyard, but it shows a portion of my neighbors. And there's been times I looked on that, and somebody was over at the neighbors, and I text my neighbor, say, hey, you got a guy here with a trailer. What's going on with that? Oh yeah, that's so and so. He's bringing me a load of dirt over, or whatever that it is. That's kind of that whole community thing. We kind of all watch each other's backs. And that doesn't mean that we agree with each other all the time. I mean, we disagree about different things too, whether it's, whatever, the weather or politics, whatever. Not everybody is always agrees 100% with everybody else, but we work together to look after us, because you know what? No one else is going to do it. I'm sorry about the commercials, man. I wish, Briar, I had some control over that, but I have no control over that. YouTube does their thing. Like I said, when it comes to the commercials and stuff, I literally have no control over that. It's either once that monetization thing goes into effect, you're at the mercy of YouTube when it comes to that. Happy Gardner. Wireless can be blocked. Yeah, there are ways that Wi-Fi can be, I guess, jammed, but there's a lot of restrictions on that too. Library Lizard, my next door neighbor, watching my house closely, and that's good. Them nosy neighbors sometimes can be good. Catherine, got to go. You have a good one. You take care. 6 commercials. That does see 6 commercials for an hour. That seems a little bit excessive. If I had my way to say about it, it'd be about 2. MR have security cameras on order from MA. Good. Yeah. Like I said, hey, if you can hook them up to your wireless device, if you got an iPhone or you got an Android, download the app for whatever kind you're getting and have it on your phone, so you can check that no matter where you're at, even if you're in the house, because there's areas in your house where you can't see out every window, so you could check on your phone if you're in your house, especially when the Wi-Fi is hot. Coney B, my nosy neighbor, has all, yeah, and dogs are good to have too. Dogs, it's good to have a dog that will bark too. I know people complain about dogs barking, but I'll tell you what, a dog is actually really good to let you know if somebody's walking by, or if there's some weird noise, or if somebody parks down away from you and it hears a car door slam. A dog's going to be right on that. You're going to be barking. They're going to be at the window, whatever. And they're a good companion to have around. Well, guys, it has been about an hour. I really hope that you guys have gotten something out of our chat again here tonight. I enjoy these prep chats, and I like kind of keeping them open forum like this. So whatever happens to be going on and whatever topic comes up, we can just kind of discuss them, bounce ideas off one another. I really appreciate each and every one of you guys taking an hour out of your week to spend it with me and Mother Refugee here. And we appreciate you guys joining us and being with us. And like I said, we're just one facet of the preparedness community, and I enjoy sharing different tips and techniques and things that work for us in the past, things that I learned from the old timers, and share them with you guys. But anyway, I appreciate each and every one of you guys for coming around and stopping by here. I will have another live stream. Today is Sunday, so it'll be next Saturday evening. I'm going to shoot for 7 p.m. Eastern time. If anything changes, I'll put a link in, or I will put a community post up, but I am planning on another one again next Saturday. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Look out for those other 2 videos. I am planning on putting those 2 videos out this week, so we got a couple of vids coming out with some interesting information for you guys. Anyways, this is Modern Refugee. Appreciate all my subscribers out there. Hope you guys always get some information, some entertainment out of my videos. And you guys keep your head on a swivel this week here, and you guys take care. Have a good one.